Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Jason Karaman. Thank you so much for joining my webinar today on AI implementation in the workplace and how to implement it without your employees hating you, right? So I'll be recording this and uploading it to YouTube. I'm going to have everybody muted at the moment for now. So webinar folks, if you have a question, feel free to submit those directly into the chat. We can answer those when we're all done. For those watching on YouTube, leave a comment if you have a question. Happy to answer it directly in the comments there. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you want more of these informational webinar type videos. So today I wanted to talk about a problem that a lot of businesses are running into right now. They know that AI matters, right? They know they probably need to start using it. They know competitors are experimenting with it. So they start buying tools, they start testing automations, launching pilots, and telling employees to start using AI. But then something happens, right? The tool's available, but people do not really use it. Or they use it once or twice and then go back to the old ways. Or one team uses it well, but another team has no idea what to do with it. Or leadership thinks AI is saving time, but employees are quietly spending extra time fixing those AI mistakes. So this is the gap I want to talk about today, because a lot of AI adoption problems are not really AI tech problems. They're really organizational readiness problems. Before a company asks, which AI tool should we buy? I really think there's a better question to ask first. Is the organization actually ready to use AI in a way that employees understand, trust, and can apply to real work? So that's the question. And that is what the People First AI Implementation Framework, or PFAIF, is really built around. So before I really get into this framework, I want to acknowledge something important here before we get going. So people are justified in being nervous about AI at work. I mean, go to any online forum right now, whether it's Reddit or wherever, people are very upset at this wave of AI that's happening everywhere. You can't get away from it. It's in commercials, right? It's all over YouTube. Obviously, we're watching it today. Fast food places are implementing it. Amazon has it. All these other places that you interact with every day. Google search is about to change. They're implementing these AI sort of systems, and a lot of people are genuinely concerned about it. They're concerned from a societal level. They're concerned from an economic level. They're concerned at a personal level as well. And I don't think any of this is irrational, right? I mean, this is a massive change in how humans are going to be interacting with technology, perhaps moving forward. So I don't think any of this resistance to the change is irrational. In fact, a lot of it I actually do support. And that's a whole nother topic we can go over later on. And when I come to responsible AI usage and responsible AI practices, but that's a whole nother topic. So I definitely understand the pushback towards AI. And I think honestly, it's because many companies are introducing it the wrong way, right? They're moving way too fast. They're buying tools. They're talking about efficiency, productivity, but they're not always explaining what this means for the employees, right? How the tool should be used, who's accountable for the output, or how people are supposed to adapt, right? So, of course, people are worried. They're asking these fair questions, right? Is this here to help me, or is it going to replace me? Every day we log into, whatever the news we want to watch, and we see reports of, this company has laid off hundreds, in some cases thousands of employees to replace them with AI workflows. Am I going to be judged against a tool that I don't control? Is this going to make my job easier, or am I going to spend more time cleaning up these mistakes that AI makes? Is leadership using AI to support better work, or is it a cutting cost measure? So these are not like anti-innovation questions. These are human questions, right? And I think that any responsible AI conversation has to start there. So the reality is, AI is here, right? I mean, the Pandora's box is open. we cannot and probably will not go back to a world where AI does not affect work or human interaction with tech in any way. So the question is not really at this point whether AI should be used. The question is whether we're going to manage it responsibly. And that's what PFAIF is about. This is not about forcing AI into the workplace. This is not about forcing AI into your workflows. It's not about replacing people as quickly as possible. And it's not about pretending there are no risks to any of this either. It's about helping organizations implement AI in a way that employees can understand, trust, and actually use. Because if AI adoption is handled poorly, we can create fear, resistance, wasted money, lower quality work, and real economic instability. But if it is handled responsibly, AI can support people, improve workflows, reduce repetitive work, and create value without treating employees like an afterthought. So, and this is the heart, right, of people first AI readiness. So, the first idea is simple here, right? Access is not the same as adoption. Giving employees access to an AI tool does not mean the organization is ready to use AI well, right? A company can buy licenses for ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, whatever platform they want to use, and still not get much value from it. So think about this. Think about an HVAC company, right? We're an HVAC company. Let's say the HVAC company buys an AI tool because they want to improve customer service, right? Leadership imagines the tool will help with summaries, technician notes, customer follow-ups, I don't know, maybe job descriptions, marketing content, whatever. But if nobody sits down to map the actual workflow first, they may buy the wrong thing. So maybe the real problem was not writing follow-up emails. Maybe the real problem was that dispatch notes were inconsistent. Technicians were missing key job details, and maybe the CSR team did not have a clean handoff process. So in that case, buying a general AI writing tool might feel innovative for that company, but it doesn't solve any workflow problems at all. So this is why readiness matters. Tool access tells you who has the software, but readiness tells you whether the organization is prepared to use the software in a way that actually improves their work. Those are very different things. So, what PFAIF is? PFAIF stands for People First AI Implementation Framework, right? So, at a high level, this is a practical framework for thinking about whether an organization is ready to implement AI in a way that actually works. This is not a tool selection framework, right? It's not about saying one AI platform is better than another. It's about everything around the tool: the workflow, use case, the communication, training, quality standards, the pilot testing, trust, feedback loop. That's where many AI rollouts either succeed or fail. So, for example, right, a law firm might use AI to help draft a first pass summary of case documents. That's a good use case. Okay, totally understandable. But if attorneys do not know what must be reviewed, like what's being changed or is being edited, who approves that final work, what information cannot be entered into the tool, or when AI is not appropriate to be used, then the tool creates a layer of risk that we definitely don't need to see. So the problem is not necessarily the AI. The problem is that the organization does not build a support system around the AI. So this is the purpose of PFAIF. It helps leaders look at the conditions around AI adoption before they scale too broadly. So to make this framework practical, we created the PFAIF Readiness Assessment. So this assessment, you can take this today. I'll put the link in the description. I'll put it in the webinar chat as well. This assessment includes 40 scored items across 8 people-first AI readiness areas. Each of these items is scored on a 1 to 5 scale. So instead of just asking, are we using AI, this assessment asks more specific questions about whether the organization is actually ready to support AI use. So the total score here ranges from 40 to 200. This score places the organization into one of 4 readiness levels. low, developing, strong, or advanced. The assessment structure and scoring rules are part of the current PFAIF validation work that we're working on right now. So I want to be clear about what this is and what this is not, right? This is not like a legal audit or cybersecurity, HR compliance audit. It's like a practical readiness tool, right? It's meant to help leaders, managers, consultants, HR teams, operation teams, AI implementation teams, or if you're just an individual looking to implement it into your own workflows at work, it's for you all to identify where the organization may need more support before AI is actually scaled and rolled out. So the value is not just getting a score. I mean, the score is nice, but that's the value really is seeing where the weak spots are before those weak spots become expensive spots. So this assessment over here looks at 8 readiness areas. The first is workflow assessment, which means understanding the actual work before choosing the tool. The second is use case definition, being clear about what problem AI is supposed to solve. It needs to be a clear problem, not just AI for the sake of AI. There needs to be a workflow problem that we should overcome. Change communication, that means explaining why AI is being introduced and how it affects people's work. Role-specific training, we need to make sure employees are trained on how AI applies to their actual jobs, not just a generic AI overview. Quality standards, right? That means people know what must be checked, who owns the final approval, and when AI should not be used. Pilot testing is important. That means testing AI with a small group of people before rolling it out company-wide. We have adoption and trust measurement, which means asking whether employees actually trust the tool, find it useful, and believe it's improving the work. And then reinforcement and feedback loops, which may be the most important one, ironically, which means improving the process after the launch, right? So here's a simple example, right? Let's say we're a plumbing company now. We might want to use AI to help write service follow-up messages. Sounds useful, love it. But the 8 readiness areas force better questions, right? Other than just, is that good use? Yeah, maybe. So where does that follow-up happen in the workflow? Who's the message for? What kind of job information should AI use? Who reviews the message before it goes to the customer? What happens if the customer had a complaint? What language should never be used? How do employees report when the AI generated message is wrong? So this is different, right, from just use AI for follow-up to implementing AI as a workflow practice. So let's look at one of the early data points from the PFAIF assessment. Okay, so what we did was we put this assessment out on the website, LinkedIn, word of mouth, email blasts everywhere. We collected 1,000 verified responses to our assessment. We filtered out, 60 some obvious bot responses and other sorts of things. But in the initial data sets, we have 1,000 verified responses to the PFAIF assessment. The results were not surprising. They showed that most responses were either in the low or developing areas of AI readiness. So about 33% were in the low readiness, and about 63% were in the developing category. So the vast majority were developing still. 3.8% scored strong, and a whole whopping 0.0 were in the advanced readiness, which makes sense. I mean, the advanced readiness, we'll go over this later, but the advanced readiness is more so like you've been using AI for years, you have a rock solid workflow in place to roll things out and test, and everyone's on board. It's part of the culture. No company's there yet, right? I mean, we're getting there, but no company is truly there. I envision these numbers will dramatically change if you take this again in 2027, 2028. But as of May 2026, we're still figuring it out, and the data is very obvious for that. So what this means, right? Most organizations, ironically, in this early data set, were not completely ignoring AI. Even though it says low readiness or developing, they're using AI, right? But they just were not mature in the systems needed to support AI adoption. So that's a very real business problem, right? It means that the company may be spending money on tools before the organization is ready to get full value from them, right? So use that one more time. The business problem in implementing AI too early is that a company is spending money on tools before the organization is ready or able to get value from them. So think about a small business that pays for AI software across the team. Maybe the monthly cost is not huge first, right? But then employees do not really use it, or they use it inconsistently, or managers don't know how to measure whether it helped, or the tool creates errors that someone else has to fix. Well, I mean, now the company has spent money, used up employee time, created confusion, and nobody knows if AI has actually improved anything or not. So that's what readiness is meant to prevent. The point of the data is not most companies, are failing at this. The point is that many companies appear to be in the middle, which is expected. They're experimenting, they're trying, but the support systems are catching up, right? So the next chart here it is. The next chart shows the average score for each individual readiness area. Scores on a 1 to 5 scale. So a higher the number means the stronger readiness in that area. A lower number means that it just needs more attention. In these early results, use case definition was the highest area with an average of 2.94. So most people had an idea of what they wanted to do with AI. It's not just AI for the sake of AI, it's AI with a purpose. So most people are on board with that concept. Workflow assessment and quality standards were also relatively higher. So in general, most companies, know what the output should look like, what they want to exactly see in the outputs, what should be corrected, and where those go in the workflows. The workflow use case situations down pat. But the lowest areas were adoption and trust measurement, role-specific training, and reinforcement and feedback loops. And those measured, adoption and trust measured 2.41, role-specific 2.46, and reinforcement feedback loops 2.53. So the biggest gaps were not only about the biggest gaps were not about finding possible AI use cases. The bigger gaps were more so around what happens after the company starts using AI. Are employees trained in their specific role? I mean, which sounds like a silly question, but if employees are improperly trained, or if they are assuming things in their role that they were not trained on, but they're just been doing it that way, that will be exacerbated when it comes to using AI, right? Does the company know whether employees trust the tool? Is anyone measuring whether AI is even saving time, right? Or is it creating extra cleanup work? Is there a feedback process after launch, or are they just told to use this and it is what it is now? So these are the areas where AI adoption often breaks down. So if an HVAC company, go back to our HVAC folks, let's say they roll out an AI agent to help technicians write job notes. Sounds great, cool. But if technicians are not trained on what good AI assisted notes even look like, one technician may use it well, another may barely use it, and another may accept a bad output without even checking it. So then the office has to clean up confusing notes. The customer service team has less reliable information. Managers think AI is saving time, but really the work is just being shifted and is moved from the technicians over to the CSR team. So that's why role-specific training and quality standards matter. AI should not just make one task faster. It should improve the whole workflow. I'm going to say that again. AI should not just make one singular task faster. It needs to make the whole workflow improved. Okay. So another data slide here. So this chart over here shows something else that matters. Reported AI adoption outcomes increased across readiness levels. That makes sense, right? So the outcome score was measured on a 1 to 5 scale. Low AI readiness had an average outcome score of 2.14. Developing AI readiness had an outcome score of 2.71. Strong was 3.39. And obviously we didn't have any advanced, so we don't have that to benchmark against. But let me explain what outcome score means. This was not one question. This was basically a group of outcome questions combined together. So those questions looked at things like whether or not AI adoption was successful, whether AI adoption improved productivity, whether it improved work quality, whether employees trusted the tools, whether employees were willing to use it in the first place. So organizations with higher readiness scores basically reported better AI outcomes. And this in the assessment, this section was the open-ended parts. So in the assessment, there's at the final 5 or 6 questions is very open-ended for you to share your experiences with implementing AI. And that's where this came from over here. So this shows a meaningful relationship. From a business perspective, that relationship definitely matters. If higher readiness is connected with better reported AI outcomes, leaders should care about readiness before they just spend money on scaling AI. Because readiness is not just like a feel-good concept, right? I mean, it does feel good, but it's not a feel-good concept. It may be part of what determines whether AI actually creates a value for your business or not. So this slide over here is a little bit more research oriented. So if you like numbers, you're gonna like this one. If you don't like numbers very much, you can skip ahead or close me out and join me again in a couple minutes. But so this slide here, I kind of want to explain what this is anyway, because some pretty cool stuff in this slide. So the first number here is called Cronbach's Alpha 0.903. It sounds technical, but the basic idea is that it's basically a way to check whether the assessment items are working together consistently. So think of it like checking whether all of the questions are generally measuring the same broader thing. And in this case, that broader thing is people first AI readiness. So the full 40-item assessment had a Cronbach's Alpha of 0.903, which is great. That shows a very strong correlation. So the assessment is not just a bunch of random questions, right? The items showed a strong consistency as an overall readiness measure. So this is basically saying like these questions all work together. They're not random. Every question in the assessment does in fact matter, which is important. The items showed strong consistency as an overall readiness measure. So the second number is the correlation, shown here as R equals 0.793. So correlation tells us whether two things tend to move together, right? In this case, these two things were total readiness score and reported AI adoption outcomes. A positive correlation means that as readiness scores went up, reported outcomes also trended to go up. Fantastic. Again, as we know, correlation does not equal causation. This does not prove one caused the other, but it does suggest the readiness score is meaningfully connected to outcomes that leaders care about, right? Third number here, R squared, shown here is 0.630. So R squared is a way of describing how much variation in one thing is statistically associated with another thing. So in this case, the total readiness was associated with about 63% of the variation in the outcome score. You don't need to remember that math at all. The takeaway is this: the early data suggests that people first AI readiness is strongly related to whether AI adoption is reported as successful, trusted, useful, and valuable. One more important point here on this slide. The strongest evidence right now supports that the total PFAIF score as an overall readiness index. The 8 areas are useful for diagnosis, but they should be treated as a practical diagnostic categories that need continued testing, continued validation. So I bring this up because this is the responsible way to talk about it. This is the first test that we've done very early in the process, but the results are indeed promising, and they're grounded in early evidence. But it should not be overstated that this is not like a finalized perfect instrument, but it's pretty darn close. So we're pretty happy with that one. So what does all this mean if you're a business leader, right? It means that if AI adoption is not working, the answer may not be another tool. It may be a training gap, a trust gap, communication gap, could be a quality gap or a feedback gap. So if you're like a home services company, right, you want to use AI to respond faster to customer inquiries. The company may buy a tool that can draft responses, but the actual issue is that customer inquiries come from multiple places, Phone calls, forms, chat, Google Business Profile, Facebook messages, wherever. The team does not have a clear process for who responds, how urgent jobs are classified, what information has to be included. So AI can draft a response, but the workflow could still be messy. In that case, AI may make the mess faster, right? It's just making the mess faster. It does not fix the underlying problem. So that's why PFAIF starts with readiness. If the workflow is unclear, map it. If the use case is vague, define it. If employees are unsure, communicate clearly. If training is generic, make it role specific. If quality is inconsistent, set those standards. If the rollout is risky, pilot test it first. And if trust is unknown, measure it. If the process is not improving, stop it. So that's the other thing. If the process is not working, if something is rolled out, don't force it. Stop it. That's how AI becomes useful instead of just available. So the PFAIF assessment places organizations into 4 different readiness levels, right? So you take the assessment, go through the questions. I think it's about 6 to 8 minutes at the end of the day. When you're done, you're going to get a score and be shown one of these readiness levels: low, developing, strong, or advanced. These levels are not meant to like shame anyone, right? They're meant to help leaders understand what kind of support the organization probably needs next. So low AI readiness usually means that AI is simply moving faster than the organization's ability to support it. That's not, again, that's not like a bad thing, right? I mean, AI is moving so fast nowadays. There are new tools, new use cases, new technology, new upgrades every single day in this field right now. And in a business, we're doing things perhaps the same way for decades and decades and decades. Adopting to this seemingly daily change is a lot. So that's where a lot of companies are falling here. So the priority in this case really is to like slow down, right? Map those workflows, clarify your use cases, and just build a stronger foundation before starting to roll things out and scale. So for business, this might mean pausing before buying anything else and asking, what work are we actually trying to improve here? Okay. So developing readiness means the organization may have early AI activity. They rolled out a few tools already, but the support systems are more or less uneven. So the priority here is to improve communication, role-specific training, quality standards, and those early pilot testing. This is probably where most organizations fall right now. Some people are using AI already. We have a lot of teams that are already experimenting. We see a lot of public-facing experiments from major companies. So it's not just small enterprises or medium businesses. Major enterprises, major conglomerates are rolling out and testing AI, who probably fall in this category too themselves. There's just not like a consistent process around how to do it at the moment. So that's where most people fall at this point. So strong AI readiness means several important pieces are already in place. So the priority here is to strengthen the value measurement, reinforce what is already working, stop what's not, make sure AI is improving real work, not just increasing usage. So this at this point, this is where leaders need to be asking, are we actually getting value, or are people just using these tools because we told them to, right? So when you're at the advanced level now, we don't have anybody here yet, but when we're at the advanced level, it means that AI is treated as an ongoing core process with the company. It's an ongoing change process. This is not a one-time rollout. At this point, the priority becomes continuous improvement, measuring and supporting the trust, workflow refinement, that sort of long-term governance. This is the long-term goal here, is when your employees trust AI, they use AI, they're excited about AI, and they're not scared from AI because they know that AI is not there to take their jobs. It's there to support their jobs. So that's the goal, not just random maximum AI usage, but useful, trusted, sustainable AI adoption. All right, so practical example, right? So the assessment is only useful if it leads to action. So let's say a company takes the assessment and scores low on role-specific training. That does not mean the company needs a new tool. It probably means employees need better examples from their actual work. A marketing team may need examples for content briefs, page outlines, ad copy, keyword clustering, editing. Maybe they had no clue they could even do those things with the tool. A customer service team made examples for call summaries, customer follow-ups, complaint responses, knowledge base answers. An HVAC technician may not need prompt engineering training. They may need a simple process for turning job details into clean notes, right? How to check the output, making sure nothing inaccurate is being sent to the customer. So that is role-specific training, which is different from AI technology training. Or let's say the lowest area is adoption and trust measurement. That might mean the company is successfully tracking tool usage, but not whether employees actually trust the tool or believe it's improving work. In that case, the next step is not just to push more usage and force people to use it. The next step is to ask better questions. Is this helping? Is it accurate enough? Is it creating cleanup work? Do employees feel confident using this? Would they keep using it if they were not required to? These questions are super simple, but they reveal whether AI adoption is real or just surface level. So before we start scaling AI into our workplaces, leaders, everyone here should be asking these 8 basic questions. Have we mapped the workflow? Have we defined the use case? Have we communicated the change clearly? Have we trained employees by role? Have we defined quality standards? Have we tested with a pilot? Are we measuring trust and usefulness? Are we improving after launch? That's it, like these questions, right? So I'm going to provide a 1-sheet PDF as well that you all can download. I'll put it in the webinar chat. I'll put it in the YouTube description. You can print that off, keep it on your desktop, whatever you want to do. So whenever you roll out a tool or start to think about it, you remind yourself of these questions. They're not complicated questions, but they do change the order of how AI is thought about, right? So instead of starting with a tool, right, like, oh, Claude looks pretty cool. How do we use Claude into our current workflow? Instead of starting with the tool and trying to force the adoption, this helps the organization start with the actual work. So that matters because the cost of getting AI wrong is not just the software cost. It is employee time, manager time, customer experience, rework, confusion, loss of trust, opportunity costs from solving the wrong problem. So if you're a business leader, the question is not just, can this AI tool do something super impressive and neat? The question is, will this tool actually improve the work in our organization? So PFAIF is designed to help answer that question. So the PFAIF readiness assessment is mainly designed for people who are involved in AI adoption at work. So, if you're watching this or you're at the webinar here and you're a business owner, an executive, manager, consultant, whatever it is, this is definitely for you, right? If you are an individual, like I said before, who is thinking about using AI in your own workflow, you can still benefit from this as well. This could be used as your own personal assessment tool, whether you're ready to adopt AI into your own life and your own work and, what you do personally. What we do at work is the same as what we do at home. So if you're thinking about AI from a personal perspective, this could work for you as well. Then this tool, it can be useful before an AI rollout, obviously, but it's also useful during the pilot or even after AI has already been introduced and people are trying to figure out what's going on or why AI is not working or why it is working. So for a small business, this might help an owner figure out whether this team is actually even ready to start paying for AI. Maybe you're not, and if you're not, that's okay. It's almost better that you don't implement anything until you are absolutely sure that you can handle it, right? For a larger company, it might help department leaders justify or identify whether the weak spot is training, communication, quality control, whatever. For a consultant, it could be a starting point for diagnosing where a client's AI rollout is likely to struggle, right? So this assessment is not meant to replace deeper strategy work. It's meant to make the starting point much more clear. So, like I said, we have the PFAIF readiness assessments. This is a starting point for you all. You can take the assessment here. I'll put the link in the description. You see the URL on the screen right over here. Webinar folks, I'll put it in the chat as well when we're done. You can take it. It's free, right? Like I said, it just goes right to a free form. You're going to spend 6 to 8 minutes on it. It's completely anonymous. You don't have to log in or anything. It's just a free tool. It's really going to help you think where your organization is the strongest, right? And where it may need more supports and what to focus on before scaling AI even further. So again, this isn't like a legal audit or tech audit or compliance review. Simply put, it's a readiness tool. It's meant to help you ask better questions before AI adoption becomes expensive, confusing, or frustrating. So before you scale AI, make sure your organization is ready to support the people who have to use it. Let me say that one more time. Before you scale AI, make sure the organization is ready to support the people who will have to use it. That's how AI becomes useful and trusted and sustainable. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for joining today. Really appreciate it. I will be, again, putting all this in the description. And if you liked this video, if you liked the webinar, I'll be sending out more invitations to these future webinars later on. If you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe. I'll be putting perhaps more videos like this on the channel. So thank you very much for watching and hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you.